Today, we were joined by Ezzie Spencer, a beautiful guiding force, intuitive, heart-led, energetic, expansive. She is not only the author of Lunar Abundance and An Abundant Life, but she has created an incredible method called the Splinter Method, which helps you attune more into your true essence of who you are. She works with something called money splinters, and we dived into money and the topic of money, the taboo, why we're afraid of our own power, why we're afraid to really step into who we are, possibly creating levels of self-sabotage, releasing all those unconscious vows, as she calls them, and, more of who she is. Get to know her through this podcast episode, and thank you for listening. Ezzie Spencer, one of my most favorite people on planet Earth, once human rights lawyer, now creator of the Splinter Method and Relove in some way, and relationship expert, finance, money, abundance, and so forth. Did I mention already, one of my favorite humans on this planet here sitting with us. And thank you for being here, and really just thank you for being you, and just such an inspiration in my own life. So happy to have you here. And tell us, who are you?
Well, firstly, right back at you in all of the ways.
I mean, sorry for the interruption. Look at this smile.
Mirror. Who am I? That was the question.
Yes.
Who am I?
Where do you come from? Who are you? What inspires you?
Well, I am, a spiritual being having a human experience. As you can tell from my accent, I grew up in Australia. You're also one of my favorite people and a great inspiration. My mission is the expansion of human consciousness, and that's something that really mobilizes me and drives me and is the drumbeat underneath all of the very disparate parts of my life and career. And to your point, started out in a completely different area, working in human rights law, specializing in domestic violence and sexual assault, and did my PhD in therapeutic jurisprudence, which is all about law as healing, after experiencing abuse inside of relationships. And then my life has taken me in a completely different, quite cosmic direction, which is
as it would any cosmic being.
Indeed.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, so how has that background in human rights law and, sexual assault really influenced maybe who you have become, who you are now, but also how has that really created the foundation of what you're doing currently, which we'll get to in a moment?
In so many ways. And in a really sort of practical 3D way, when we're looking at some of the drivers of domestic violence, which is usually gendered, one of the primary drivers across all jurisdictions, so everywhere in the world, one of the primary drivers of that is gender inequality. And one way that gender inequality, of course, can be measured is through pay inequality or financial inequality. Now, obviously, there's going to be so many different components when it comes to what leads to a relationship that is abusive in nature, but that's something that's just so consistent across the board. And so whilst it's not the only reason, when we're coming from a preventative perspective, money is actually one of the easiest problems to solve when you know how. When you know how. So from that perspective, from that very 3D perspective, it's always been a driver and a motivator. A lot of the reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why people don't leave those types of relationships is because they don't have the resources to do so. And those can also be internal resources. And of course, money and financial abundance is also an inside job. And so naturally, when you're in a relationship of that nature, it's going to impact your sense of self-esteem, self-worth, personal power, agency. So working inside of someone in terms of building up the internal architecture is important. But then also just we live in a material world. You need to have cash, to be able to build a life for yourself.
Yeah.
In our current society.
That's true. So what would you say money as an energy is? How would you define money? What is money for you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, I definitely feel like money is an energy. For me, money has its own consciousness. Money exists beyond the human experience, but money can move through humans and can move through human vehicles as well. So money, as I feel it, like in its most pure sense, is like an energy. It's a consciousness. It likes to flow and it needs to grow. And it's incredibly simple like that.
Wait, I like that again. What was it? It likes to flow and it needs to grow.
It likes to flow and it needs to grow.
Okay. And
often as humans, we put all kinds of value matrices and all types of things on top of money, like I deserve it. I work really hard. I do good things in the world. And all of those things are true. And of course, you should absolutely be provided for and compensated in terms of the work that you do. But money doesn't work like that. Money is very, very simple and exists outside of those moral, ethical frameworks that we often tend to superimpose upon it. Which is why money doesn't often make sense when we look at it through the lens of, but I'm a good person. I've done so much good in the world. Why isn't there a reciprocal flow with respect to that?
Interesting. Yeah, I get that. What I'm sensing from what you're saying is like money has layers and it's much bigger energy. We look at money probably as the physical object of cash bills, but there's different layers also to that, right? In some way. So you have, I don't even know where I'm headed with this thought, but I'm feeling the ginormity of that word, and probably we all have a different connection to it. I'm sure, past experiences, ancestry. We've talked a little bit about that with my work with you, where we come from.
Yeah, I'd say that money would express through physical form, like cash or gold or zeros in a bank account or, crypto tokens or whatever it is. It expresses in that way, but the actual energy and the consciousness of it is very simple. But I would say it also amplifies, and this is why I love working with money now in the work that I do, it amplifies anything that's going on inside of the human experience.
Wow. Talk more about that.
Yeah. So when I'm working with someone, when I'm looking with someone, I see 3 energetic channels in a person. That's just the way that
your gift. this human is highly gifted, believe it or not.
Or my weird.
Or my weird. Well, yeah, talk about words. Weird gift. Right.
So I can see the power channel that runs down the right-hand side, the love channel that runs down the middle of a person, and the peace channel that runs down the left-hand side. And these are all individual to a person. So what I mean by that, it's personal power, it's self-love, and it's inner peace. And I can see where those channels have been splintered, where the consciousness has been fragmented. And again, I'm talking on an energetic level here. Right. Now, what money will do is that it will it will come in or not come in, as the case may be. It may be blocked, but it will amplify in someone, particularly when there's a conscious desire to welcome in more money or to create more abundance. It will amplify where inside of yourself energetically you were blocked or where your consciousness has been splintered or fragmented.
Wow. So you're specifically talking about your work, which is the splinter work. Is that right? This is like how you work in helping people let go of limiting beliefs in their body, in their energetic body. So you're talking about 3 channels. You see inner peace, self-love, and power center. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how you work is just really looking at those energetic points and supporting people where it's been wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. Because actually inside of those channels, there's two things going on. One is at the top of the channel, if you will. And again, I'm speaking, I appreciate, through a slightly more abstract lens because I'm speaking about what I see energetically.
Right. We love that. We love to see the insides of the work. Yeah.
Yeah. So the channels are blocked by what we call unconscious vows or unconscious agreements. So this is oftentimes where the limiting beliefs come up because these are internally generated, right? If you have a limiting belief, it's something inside of you. And you can also, you can change that quite easily, right? Because you made it up to begin with. And sure, you can take up someone else's limiting beliefs, and we have collective limiting beliefs, and you can inherit limiting beliefs, and there are plenty of limiting beliefs from the childhood home. But the beliefs are internally generated, or they're internally taken on. Underneath that, though, there's another layer, which is the splinter, if you will. And so the splinter is actually something foreign to you. So it's the way that your consciousness has been splintered or pierced by something completely external. And so that's something that you need to remove in order to have the energy flowing again. And then when the energy is flowing again, you're restored to your true state, which is always going to be one of personal power, self-love and inner peace, because that's who we are in our essence,
Yeah, I'm looking at it like in order to get to power, you need inner peace, self-love, and then you kind of connect to that power center in some way. I mean, I think
it's different for everybody.
It is.
Yeah, and I think that I think that for some people that's the journey, and then for other people it goes in another direction.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, maybe I'm talking to from my perspective, but I could see how power can lead to inner peace as well. Power back to self-love, to inner peace. Like you start at power. I mean, you could go all different directions.
Yeah, and with the interesting thing is that you can have. You can have your limiting beliefs, you can have your unconscious vows, you can have your splinters in any area of life, by the way. The reason why I work with money in particular is because it is such an amplifier.
Right.
And
because you started with relationship. Well, no, where did you start?
Yeah. So I developed the process of unlocking and unblocking and drawing the splinters out. I developed that through love. So again, human rights lawyer, having worked in that area and done my PhD in that area, it was subject matter that I was very, very familiar with, recovering from toxic relationships, rebuilding up that sense of self-esteem, self-worth, and opening oneself up to have a healthy relationship, be open and available for love, and to be able to receive that and so forth. So I started in that area. It used to take me about, 12 weeks to take a splinter out. And then over time, I can do it much more quickly than that now. But over time, I realized that it wasn't just about the love splinters. That was just a subject area that I had a lot of experience in. Actually, you could be splintered in any area. And really, when we're talking about the splintering, we're talking about the splintering of consciousness. So between the conscious mind, so what you consciously want and desire, and something that is countervailing in the unconscious. So anything that's existing outside of the purview of a regular frame of mind, but actually has its own set of needs or desires or some kind of weight in your spirit.
Wanting to be seen. I'm thinking of that graph where you see the iceberg up top, but it's all the bottom. Is that right? Like that's really the gold of this.
Correct. Looking
at all of that because you can see it outside of yourself but you're not seeing what's really holding it all.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And like the iceberg, you can be drifting through the ocean and that's fine. You're just living your best iceberg life. But, the problem is that when you want to change a pattern or where you want to expand or where you want to go to the next level and consciously you want that thing. And of course, you're working really hard, and you're efforting and you're striving and you're using your will and your determination and your grit and everything. Yet you can't seem to transcend a certain pattern, or things happen from the outside that don't seem to make sense, or you engage in self-sabotage behaviors and you're like, wait, what am I doing? I want this. I'm speaking it into existence. I'm making my vision boards. I'm taking all the right action, but I'm not getting to the destination. That's oftentimes a clue that there's something going on underneath the surface that wants you to stay put for whatever reason. And that reason, the context and the story and the layer and so forth of that reason is going to be highly specific to you and to your history and to your soul patterning and to whatever it is that you're here to evolve into in this lifetime. But it's always going to be through the lens of self-protection, right? Like you're never actually holding yourself back for kicks.
Right.
Like it's always because you think it's actually going to be better for yourself, again, on a deep, buried, hidden, unconscious layer, for you to stay in the familiarity zone, to stay small, to not be seen, to stay invisible, to stay safe, to not go to the next level, specifically with money, because again, I love working with money because this is how we can really move very fast, because money is more of an amplifier than most things. You know, it's always coming from a place of self-protection from the unconscious level, but it creates an enormous amount of internal pressure and turmoil.
You're right.
When that runs counter to what it is that you consciously want.
Wow. Right. Well, I'm seeing it. I'm like having lots of visuals as you're speaking. I'm like trying to catch it. I feel that. And, you know, I think you're speaking to a very human condition. I think that like every single person in the planet has experienced some level of this, what you're talking about. I think it's a common thread for all of us. You know, even the people who have made it. I was reading The Psychology of Money, you know, and it speaks to Jimmy Buffett's like his power of investing, but it didn't take till like he was 80 to actually create the wealth he's created. So it's all a path of constantly growing and stretching yourself to let that self-sabotage, like release some sort of part of that self-sabotage in some way. I'm curious, as you're saying all of this, you know, what would you think that self-sabotage is really about? Like, why do we create, you know, you're talking about the levels of protection and not being seen and staying safe in that. And I know it's different for everybody, but like, could you give us a general sense of what that is about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the intuition is often correct that there's going to be some kind of death. And here I'm not talking about a literal, like, you know, death of the human form, but there's going to be some kind of completion or conclusion of a way of life, an identity, a way of seeing reality, a way of experiencing life. And sometimes, so when it is about self-protection, there can be a fighting for survival in the unconscious mind. But for whatever it is that's operating in the unconscious, like that is real. That is a real battle, you know? And so in very, very practical terms, that might look like, well, maybe this means turning my back on a certain family pattern, you know, and the unconscious mind might equate that with losing the love and connection with your family. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be that. And in fact, one of the beautiful impacts of this work is that you can heal your family tree, you know, and you don't just have to break generational patterns going down to people younger than you. You can heal your siblings and you can heal up the family line, you know, if you are the person that transcends this, you know. So actually the opposite is usually true. You don't, in this particular example, you don't lose connection with your family. You don't lose love. You only amplify that inside of yourself and inside of the family tree in ways that the mind can't fully conceive. But for the unconscious mind, whatever it is that's running as oftentimes the handbrake, if you will, on that progress, the intuition is real. Something dramatic is going to happen in your ontology, meaning the way that you experience your reality. It doesn't know that it's going to be better. It only knows that it's going to be different from anything it's ever experienced before. And there's nothing that the human condition hates more than the unknown.
That's true. I mean, I sense that we're all somewhat afraid of death in its own form, and death in its all its forms, not just physical death. So the unknown is quite scary for all of us in some way. Yeah. Wow, you left me.
The loss of existence, you know, it's the fear of the it's oftentimes it's the fear, it's the terror actually.
Right.
You know, at times it's the terror of not not having a place in the universe.
Well, which brings us to our greatest fear is, I think, in some way, not belonging.
Right.
I think that's a human, also a human feeling. Like to not belong can create a lot of suffering in some way.
Peace channel.
I've had the pleasure and honor of experiencing your work, and it's been both life-changing and really, truly expansive in my own knowing of who I am and can become. I wish everyone the absolute gift of your work, because it's truly, truly just, it's something I've never experienced, and I can feel the modality and the and life experience that you're bringing into your work. I mean, and I have also witnessed it from 1 hour and a half to the 45-minute session. And I mean, the 45-minute session is like a drop of gold in your life. And for me, I mean, it took me a little time it takes me always some time to really digest it and process it and integrate it into my life. But just the level of, the love and experience that you bring into this work and really create opportunity for people to know that there's something better for them, to know that there's something different for them. Yeah. It's almost like you're midwiving them into like releasing that fear of the unknown. Like there is something much better out there for you and expansive. Yeah. I'm curious if there's anything you'd like to share about, one, developing this modality, which is so exciting because there's nothing like it in the world. As I said, I mean, I've worked with many, many people in my life, and Ezzie brings something different, and it's spicy and flavorful and playful. And something that you'd like to share about, one, developing, or what it means to go through it, or anything that comes to mind.
Yes. I mean, it's so fun to talk about the actual process. Yes. I come into my alchemical lab.
Truly.
Oh my goodness. And you are such a joy to work with because you are so open, and with you, we get to go so deep, so quickly, and you're incredible. As a facilitator, I also get to experience, what it is that you're experiencing as part of that magical container. So it is amazing. So first thing is that, the legal side of things is a lot more relevant inside of the actual development of the process and the method and the way that I ask the questions. And then I think people would perhaps think, like, people often come in and thinking it'll be, say, straight energy work. And of course there is an alchemical dimension to what occurs when we open up the space. And in addition to that, I'm working very consciously with the prompts that I am asking to both comfort your conscious mind, and with full permission. Like there's no, I'm not running any tricks. Like I'm telling you as we're going along what's going on. I really enlist your conscious mind in the process of letting go of control. And so then we're able to drop right into the unconscious mind. And I do that through the very specific way that I have crafted linguistic prompts. And I guide you into what it is that I see. Now, what it is I see is actually something that happened very, very quickly overnight on the 15th of March, 2011. I was able to see these channels, if you will, in the people. So the power, the love, and the peace channel in the people that I work with, or indeed with anybody. So I had a rapid spiritual awakening one night. I was working as a lawyer. I was doing my PhD at the time. So I was very much immersed in a intellectual, living from the head up, very masculine environment. Even though I was working with women, it was still very much geared inside of the legal system. Like it was all about justice and safety and laws and everything that's really, really important. But of course, as we know, is only part of the story, when we come to, firstly, the nature of reality, second, the nature of feminine power, thirdly, the nature of like my own feminine power, and what it is I'm really here for. So that was the context for what happened, which is that I was alone at home one night. And I had a vision. So I was awake. It wasn't a dream. It was a vision. But I had a vision of 3 men coming into my apartment the next day. So it was like an apparition. And I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. But it was so real. It was so vivid. I knew it was happening. So I left my apartment. I changed my movements, and those 3 men did come into my apartment. They were caught on CCTV, and they were violent criminals. They were put back in jail. So obviously I was physically safe. I went and got a security guard. I was totally fine because of what it is that I had seen. However, whilst no one wants a home invasion, like, again, I was totally fine from a physical perspective. But what really rattled me was the fact that I'd seen the future. And again, from a very legal world, like, time was just linear. Like, you didn't cross timelines. This is 2011. You know, I think in this day and age, like, you know, post-social media, this is something which I think particularly in our world, it's more common, it's more accepted. Common. But this was completely outside of my frame of reference. So I really struggled with that. And speaking about belonging, you know, I really struggled with the fact that I didn't belong, because not only did I feel really weird, by the way, it wasn't just that I could see that night, my circuits were blasted open. And I didn't know how to turn it off at that point in time. So I could see across timelines, but I could also see inside of people. I could see these soul wounds, what it is I now call splinters, because they literally look like splinters.
I'm feeling the energy.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I just felt that. I was like, yes. Sneezing for me is usually affirmation.
You're such a healer.
It's like,
oh God, I love you so much.
Wow.
So, you know, the lack of the belonging for me was not just in my head. It was that I didn't just think that I was weird. Other people thought I was weird. You know, I couldn't share this with my peers, with my friends, with my colleagues, you know, with my mentors in a way that made sense to them, because it didn't make sense to me. So I really struggled with that for a few months. Cut a very long story short, because I'm sure you can imagine there are many beats of this story.
Were you in Australia?
I was in Australia at the time,
so
yes.
Even more so, because I can imagine, like, even there, it was even harder to, well, I don't know, anywhere. I mean, anywhere, it's harder.
Yeah, it was also the world.
2011.
Yeah, who knows? It was definitely, I didn't know how to pass or make sense of that experience until a few months later, when I went to Berlin, of all places. So I went for a conference. So by day I was going to see other therapeutic jurisprudence scholars from all around the world who'd come to this conference in Berlin of July of 2011. But then by night I was going to the little meditation studio next door to my hotel, which was in Kreuzberg in Berlin. And I was just doing what it was that I was doing, which is that I was reading people. And so at that point in time, I could see things. I didn't know how to take the splinters out. That came later. But at this time, I was reading people. So I was just telling people about themselves, about their soul journey, what their deepest soul wounds were, what their reasons for incarnation were. You know, I was just sort of doing this, and I was with a friendly crowd, you know, where people wanted this from me. You know, with this kind of oracular vision, you wait to be asked what it is that you see. But you know, these people really wanted to know. They were very curious. And then I just remember the look on their faces when they were like, oh, so this is what you do for your job in Australia and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, no, this is just something that started accidentally happening, you know, with this robbery a few months ago. Actually, I'm a lawyer. I'm working towards being a professor. And I just remember the looks on their faces and just like no one has ever helped me understand my life and my reason for being. Like no one has seen me in the way that you've just seen me. You have to be doing this for work. And so really it was their permission slip when I came back to Australia, you know, at the end of July after that conference. I started a website and I'd invite people. I was living in Bondi Beach in Australia at that point in time. So people would come over to my living room and I'd make them a cup of tea and we'd sit there for an hour and we'd do this. And then again, to cut a long story short, by the time I finished my PhD in 2013, my business had grown very organically through word of mouth, and I'd started an Instagram and a blog, and I had effectively a global coaching company, and then I wrote a book, and the book became a bestseller, and I moved to New York, which had always been a childhood dream of mine, and the book became a bestseller in America, and then I had really started to go deeply into working with the splinters, because I didn't just want to see things in people. I wanted to draw them out, right? I wanted to take people over the soul bridge. I wanted to be able to unify the consciousness in that way. And then that is when I created Relove, which was that familiar subject matter around difficult relationships. That was how I perfected the art of taking the splinters out. And of course, just to, you know, spiral around to where we began, I realized after some years of running that program that actually I could take splinters out on other topics, and money is the one that really accelerated consciousness the fastest. So that's why I specialize in that now.
Wow. Well, first of all, definitely a seer. I mean, you are beyond a seer. Gifted. Where do you see the similarities between love and money? Or what are the similarities that you see?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I would say that any challenge that anybody has is going to show up in the power channel, the love channel, and or the peace channel, and usually all three. And so, you know, particularly when we're working with love, I mean, it might show up in the love channel, meaning a difficulty receiving. You know, and so if you have a difficulty receiving money or a difficulty receiving, abundance that you want and that you need and that you deserve, then of course you're probably also going to find it difficult to receive love and support inside of your relationships.
So we're talking, again, it's an energy. It's not a physical thing. It's an actual holding of the energy of receiving.
Exactly. And so that's love. And so, you know, whenever I'm working with a person, I'm working with the individual, if you will. And it's like the splinters or the blocks are going to show up 360 in their lives. But when we work through the money lens, it usually also like clears up very quickly the 360 issues in their lives. So like we were saying before with the peace channel, there's oftentimes a sense of a lack of disconnection or a lack of belonging. So loneliness can be a feature of the peace channel, hanging on to the past, thinking about the past, ruminating about the past, beating yourself up for things that you did or didn't do in the past, a sense of regret. These types of internal experiences can point us towards a splinter in the peace channel.
And how would that show up in the money or in the power channel, for example? If that you're regretting.
Or how would a splinter? So that's in the peace channel.
Exactly. Would that also show up? How would that show up, for example, in money?
Yeah. So one of the things that I find so often with the peace channel, it often shows up with people who are in leadership positions, and you might think, what? Like, that's interesting. And it's the same idea of like, what got you here won't take you there. Now, what do I mean by that? Somebody who tends to beat themselves up, who takes a very high level of personal responsibility or accountability, has usually done that ever since they were a child. They've usually been put in a parental role as a child, which has actually set them up beautifully for leadership, meaning that they're usually the person who's willing to take on the burden. You know, they're willing to take responsibility. They might even be willing to take responsibility for things that aren't theirs. And that can make you an awesome leader, an awesome CEO of a business, for example, an incredible healer up to a point, right? Because it's also going to eventually cap your progress. Because if you're always taking over responsibility, if you're always, you know, whipping yourself and assuming that something was your fault, if you're always internalizing any kind of problem as some kind of personal failing, you know, you might rise to the top or near the top, but then you're also going to stay there because you're also going to have a lot of difficulty in delegating, for asking for support, for allowing people or stepping outside that hyper interdependence role, right? So of course that's going to prevent how much you can scale your business. You know, of course, eventually it's going to cap your pay inside of an organization. But it's a weird one in the peace channel because it's also the very thing that would have led you to rise up to a certain point. So there's a huge identity shift that needs to happen there.
And usually people are looking for that expansion, but they're stuck in a loop.
They consciously want it, and yet they can't seem to receive it. And so stepping beyond that hyper independence is usually the shift that needs to occur. And it's much easier to make a mindset shift when you're removing the energetic blockage underneath, because the splinter is not you. The splinter is foreign to you. The splinter is the way that life has entered you, or the way that life has entered your ancestors. You can carry down splinters.
That's
through the family lineage. You can also take splinters into this lifetime from other lifetimes or other parallel experiences. And this is why splinters are oftentimes so confounding to the conscious mind, because you may not be able to map the blockage or the challenge that you're having to any experience that you've actually had in this lifetime.
I have experienced that firsthand, actually. I had no idea that what we worked on was even in my sphere or consciousness.
Yeah.
And so when you took that out, like the level of expansion was massive.
Yes.
It's like boom, 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 boom. There's more.
Yes.
And it happens quick. And it happens just like you hear Ezzie, like it's like boom, 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 no time to waste. Go, go, go.
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and then there's a creation. Wow.
Yeah.
It's powerful what you're doing with leadership as well, because you're also you're amplifying the level of consciousness that is like the capacity. It almost feels like, I think a lot of us live life not really seeing what's outside of our, like, you know, we just think that life is this, but then we don't realize how expansive consciousness is.
I mean, the world is so wild and so complex and so enormous and just so full of potential and opportunity that we just can't see when we're blocked in that way. So walking over the soul bridge in that way and unifying your consciousness just unlocks
full potential
really fast.
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right. Like, I think even what I feel like I can see, I know that there's even more. Like, you know, like I see it as like a black hole in the sense of like the capacity that we are able to hold, see, feel, move, work with. And yet we're kind of keeping to that 3D space of like, this is all that's available for us. Let's just keep playing in this field. But then there's more fields and more and more and more and more expansion. What would you suggest to someone that wanted to perhaps connect to that, you know, not the 3D, but maybe like outside of that? What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, so let's speak into the power channel for a moment, because I think you're speaking directly into something there which often comes up inside of that channel, which is where you have a sense inside of yourself as to what it is that you're truly capable of, or why you're here. What is your divine assignment? Why have you incarnated? Like, what's the evolutionary potential, not just for you, but also the positive impact that you can have on the planet? People that I work with, like, have that knowing inside of them, but the question that comes in their mind is, but how? You know, so whenever you find yourself like feeling the truth of something, but then canceling it out because you don't think it's realistic or because you don't know how, then you're in the power channel. And so you're working with some kind of splinter and vow. They usually go together, the splinter and the vow in the power channel. And so the invitation there would be, you know, how can I just allow myself to dream? Allow myself to dream and trust that if something is alive for me inside of my heart, if there is a soul yearning, if there is a deeper knowing, trust that I may be able to achieve that, and with the support of others and the divine, in a way that my mind can't even fathom. So let go of the how.
Oh, the famous how. I hate that how. Sorry, hate is a strong word, but how is what blocks it. The how is what brings us back to mind and stops us from feeling that instinct, which is huge. Yeah. I love that. I love that what you're sharing is like the dreaming and the visioning. And I think a lot of people fear dreaming and visioning because, again, it's like, can there be more? Can there? Yeah. Why do you think people fear?
Well, you don't want to face the disappointment. You know, if you dare to dream, you have to also experience the hurt and the sadness and the emotion that comes with it not happening.
Yeah. And I'm actually feeling that as you're saying it. And I'm curious if we actually let go of staying in the hurt and disappointment and let it kind of move through our body quickly. I wonder how that would change people experiencing disappointment. In the sense, I feel like we were talking about this earlier. We stay in disappointment, and it becomes like we become the victim of disappointment, versus actually feeling it all the way through in our body,
Yes.
but moving it, like, and then
Yeah.
we can move it faster and faster, and potentially we could try things more and more, and
Right.
then run with our dreams, run with our visions.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing as you're sharing that.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, so what? You might be disappointed. Like, so what?
Yeah.
Like, you'll survive. And to your point, you can actually move through it quite quickly. It's okay. It's not going to be fatal.
Right. Stand up and try it again. And again and again. How many times do you fail until you accomplish something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Disappointment is a strong emotion and feeling, and probably one of the things that stops us from creating and doing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And fear of success is another one, which is bizarre because you think, why would you fear success if that's what you want? It's almost like the complete contradiction of what we just said, like fear of failure and the disappointment that accompanies failure, but also fear of success can be just as bad, because what will that mean? What will that cost me? Is often the worry around success.
Yeah.
Will it cost me my love? Will it cost me my peace? Will it cost me my family? Will it cost me my privacy? What will it cost me?
Will it cost me losing everything I have?
Yeah.
Like building everything. I fear. I fear. Yeah. People fear losing everything. I think like they build, they have, they create, they're successful, and then suddenly it just gets swept under their.
That's true.
Feet, and then everything just.
Then it will feel worse. Like,
yeah. And then I have to start over again.
Yes.
Wow. There's a lot of fear. That's what I'm sensing also. Feeling the fear of people succeeding. I wonder what a world would be in which people were actually really fully living their dream and their vision. Where would we be as a where would we be if we were all really fully living in our gift and our brilliance?
I mean, I feel like I'm seeing our home planet.
Can we talk about our home planet? Mind you, Ezzie, I met on a line to like get food somewhere. Thank you, Jackie introduced us. Or we were. What was it? The Uber. I was supposed to pick you up.
Oh my gosh, it's such a good story. I had been invited by a wonderful mutual friend of ours, Jackie, to a party, I suppose, a gathering, an event, and I had caught an Uber there, and the Uber had crashed on the highway. And I remember just going, I just want to go home. Like, obviously it's a sign. I'm not supposed to go to this event on the other side of town. And I remember texting Jackie and saying, sorry, I'm in a crashed car on the
side of the highway.
Exactly. And she's like, oh, no worries. So, like, someone will be there to pick you up. And next thing I know, it's you. We hadn't met.
Oh my gosh, I actually picked you up. I didn't end up picking you up.
As it so happened, I think there was someone a little bit closer. I think you were actually in another city at the time. So it made it even more surreal. But that was the first entry point of you in my life, was this incredible angel saying I'll be there, but it'll take me about 45 minutes. And so then someone else was a little closer, as I said, and they came and picked me up, and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to give this party a go. And then I was wearing a ring.
Oh, very similar to this one.
Very similar to that one. And I actually packed it in my suitcase for this trip.
But it was the ring in your eyes. Your eyes also told me this.
Yeah.
What you're about to share.
Well, you share this bit because you saw me.
Same finger, same ring. I was like, oh my gosh. Everybody that kind of comments on this ring, I think, back into the ancient times, the ancient planet of Lemuria. And she was like, right away, we're like, wow, power, secret friendship rings.
Share what the stone is.
It's Larimar from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Very rare.
Really rare. It's rare that people have this ring. I've only met like a couple. I can count them probably on one hand.
Yeah.
And then we went all in for like three hours. Like it was like just a long conversation on where we were from, how we recognized each other, and this was the planet, Lemuria, and bringing in this consciousness, this energy back into this realm. It's what it's one of the first lifetimes I remember as a soul. And I don't talk about it very often. So the fact that I'm talking about it on here, whoa, that feels pretty
edgy. Your home here.
Our home planet.
Yes.
Wherever that is. So going back to the home planet.
Yeah.
Where we come from.
Yeah. We share a birthday.
We do share a birthday, which means we decided to come in the same day.
Yeah.
Different years, but same day. So we have some similar energy.
Yes.
All to say that I think that vision and that visual of people living in there, I think that's what we connected on the first day that we met, was just like, what would it be like if people were really fully, and I think that connects to both of our work in the world, is just helping people really connect to their like genius, to their brilliance, to their dream, to their desire, to their capacity of expansion in this form, in this body.
Yeah.
But also as a soul, because the work that you do really actually clears not just the body and the physical realm in this lifetime, in this body, but you're doing soul's work. I feel like wherever the soul goes, which we don't really fully know next, it carries now an imprint of the work that you're doing. So I think it's really, really beautiful work that you carry from our home planet. What lights you up? What's passion for you?
I mean, so many things. Where do we begin? I mean, I'm really geeking out about health at the moment. Really geeking out about health, particularly finding out data about my body. You know, the tests now are getting so sophisticated that you can start to understand your body from the inside out, just as an individual. Yeah. And you can run experiments with yourself. And again, like this is all above board, this is simple stuff, but then you can get tested again and you can see what you've been able to change by different adaptations with diet or exercise, and very consciously trying to regulate your mood and your stress levels through particular types of meditation, for example. I find that just a really fun personal project.
Well, it feels very connected to everything that you're doing in general, because I think health is wealth, right? So if you're really fully in alignment in your body, then everything is really going to be in alignment too, right, in some way.
I'm a big fan of prevention in every single area of life, which often it's not as sexy because, I mean, it sounds great, but then when it comes to actually prioritizing something that's not actually a problem, the human condition, again, is not really wired for that. Like, we're wired to pay attention to the squeaky wheel. That's when we tend to look. But looking at, what are some of the ways that we can plant our garden, so to speak, so then we can enjoy the blooming flowers later in life. That requires some discipline and devotion and some faith, and it requires space. You have to open up the space to do that, I think.
It requires commitment as well, I think. It requires a level of commitment to yourself and to your body, and to like wanting to be better in some way as well, right? Like there's like a level of compromise with yourself or self-love, right, in some way.
Can I speak for a moment about what really struck me when I met you? Just on that theme. I would love that. Because I feel like it really speaks into your magic and what it is that you see in people. I think I told you, I think we just somehow in the first few minutes figured out that we shared a birthday. Because I think
first thing, how did we get there? It's not the first question I leave when I meet someone. That's what it was. Yes, November.
And then I remember that you sort of turned me up to the sky, and it was just a particularly clear night. You turned me up to the sky and, put your arm up to the sky and opened up my vision to all of the stars that were twinkling above us. And I can't even remember what it is that you said, but I felt the magic of that moment and the expansiveness of you.
I didn't remember that. Most of when it comes through me, wow, that's just beautiful.
Changing lives and wandering on.
One
classic you.
Some I keep though. Okay, this reminded me. Thank you. Full circle. I think you're such an image and person that lives so authentically to who you are. Like you're so authentic to your soul's purpose and essence and who you are. I really feel, Ezzie, you live fully in your like in who you are. What would you say is that secret, or how would you inspire others to really fully live in their essence and themselves?
Okay, well, great question. And thank you for the reflection. So this is a really intentional part of my morning practice, is that I meditate on quintessence. So quintessence being the essence of things, or the essence of who I am. So I very consciously cultivate that every morning. Is the spirit of quintessence. Like, who am I? And how can I be more me?
Wow.
And be brave enough to be more me in the world as well. There's layers upon layers of that. And I think that first baptism of fire back in 2011, when I left the law, or at least, I had a period of transition out of the law, because I finished my PhD and, put my PhD into practice, as well as I was building the coaching practice on the side. But I think, I think that particular period of time was extremely painful and extremely difficult to be rejected, but also it was a moment where I was forged in the fire and was invited to double down on what genuinely felt intuitively true and intuitively right for me. So in terms of inspiration, I feel like, committing to that and continuing to trust that the right people will be drawn into resonance with who you really are. And that's what magnetism is. It's you will both draw towards you the people that see you for who you really are, and who celebrate or value or participate just in who you are. But then you're also going to repel people where there's not a resonance on a soul level, or they don't understand, or they don't believe, or it's more difficult for them to face themselves when they come into connection with you, because they're not living a life of truth. And so letting those people go, I think, is the main message, and focus on the people that are in resonance and trust that more of those people will come.
Expanders. I mean, I consider you an expander in my life. Well, the people that celebrate you for your truth, for who you are, for creating more of who you want to be as well in some way.
Yeah.
That celebrate more of you versus want to have you be somebody you're not. In some way.
Yeah, it definitely makes that journey easier.
Yeah. Quintessence. I had never heard this word.
I think it's a word from Aristotle. Okay. I think that's part of, and I could be getting this wrong.
No worries. Yeah,
I think it's an alchemical concept as well, actually. Now I think about it, like what's the true essence of something, and when I'm working with somebody, like it's not just taking the splinter out; it's always restoring someone to their true state. Like who were they before the splinter? Because the splinter is not them, and the splinter is not their fault. So once that's removed, who are they?
Beautiful, because you are living in your truth, and then you're helping people live in more of their truth by also being more of yourself too. True too. Wow. And are you still doing your gratitude practice?
Yeah.
Yoni in the morning. Remember that? That was a couple of years ago.
Oh my gosh, yes, you have the best memory.
Yeah. Just for certain things.
I'm laughing because I really believe that what we need in this world is more gratitude. So, I mean, I can sometimes be a little bit strict with enforcing my gratitude practice with the people around me. It's it's sort of a running joke that my partner like grumbles because I'm making him do gratitude. But it's
so
funny.
cute.
It's funny. Of course, he loves doing gratitudes too, and we have so much to be grateful for.
This is 3 or 4 years ago in LA. My one night of I slept over. And then I run out of the room, and then I hear Ezzie and her partner, like with their list of gratitude. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, wow. She's like, we do this every morning.
It's like, yeah, we do. Yeah. If I was queen of the world, I would make every single person start their morning with a gratitude list.
This goes back to our planet.
Lord help us.
Everybody live their dream and vision and start with their gratitude practice.
Yeah, I feel like it's medicine.
Yeah, really important. It's the more grateful you are for the things that are around you, the more you're going to magnetize that level of.
Yeah, it's a real heart opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We keep going and had another. I was like, visions, missions, parentheses, gratitude. Oh yes, I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with in that authentic self and living your authentic self? How do you deal with people that don't agree with you, or negative comments, or people that are,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's dependent upon context where. Like who that person is, how much I know them, how much I value their opinion. I think there's often a moment where I'll check in to see, is there anything there for me to take a look at? I don't think that's viable to do in an online environment. But if something really stings, then there might be something there to take a look at. Not necessarily that the person is right, because they may be acting out of projection or whatever is going on for them. But why am I impacted by that? What is there for me to understand about my own boundaries, about my own self-love, or about my own perspective? Remaining open to the idea that my worldview might be also not be it. And I think that's something where over the years I've become more humble in that regard. I think that the PhD as well was the great humbler. And I think most people look at you with that and they're like, but the PhD, it's supposed to give you an expert status. And I mean, everyone I know who's gone through the experience of doing a PhD, it's an exercise in enormous intellectual humility, because you start to understand that actually you know very little at all when you have to make an original contribution to the world, which is actually that's the criterion for receiving a doctorate. It's like, are you capable of original thought or not?
Which would actually be yes, I know so much, I'm going to do this. But it's what you're saying is actually, no, I don't know enough. Wow. And
I'd say the vast majority of people, are not capable of original thought. And that's not a pejorative statement. It's to think in an original way or to make an original contribution is so incredibly difficult and so incredibly rare, And there's a lot of deconstruction, a lot of deprogramming. So I think, my posture is and has increasingly been it didn't stop with the PhD.
And you probably won't
right?
You just will continue for the rest of your life.
Correct. Right. I think the truth is I don't really know is the answer to many questions. There are particular areas where I've established a level of experience where I feel like I can have a pretty good shot at knowing, but I think there's an openness which I like to have. It doesn't mean that the other person is right, but in answer to your question, I would usually look inside of myself and see what's there in the case of disagreement.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think, because ever-evolving, polarized experience of this planet and world in some way, do any of us really know anything? Do we? What ultimately is truth other than lived experience in your body and feeling? And then does it resonate and relate to every single person in the world? Most likely not. Not every single person.
I think there's usually a very high level of expertise which can come through to your point. Expertise is not through reading books or writing essays necessarily. Can come through that, but it oftentimes comes through hard-won life experience. There can be particular areas where you may have that sense of conviction and clarity, but those areas might be, relatively limited inside of any one person's orbit.
True. And again, we talk about the level of layers of consciousness that are available to us, and each of us connected to possibly one small layer, bringing it forward and living it, experiencing it. But it's not going to be, if we unified all of our visions, perhaps we have like maybe 0.0001% of experience. So it's a big thought. But in some way, how do we continuously maybe make space for everybody's experience without making it wrong, and actually soften into like the possibility that there's room and space for all of our experiences? Maybe is what's coming to me.
Well, the ideal that I serve is peace and prosperity for people and planet, and for that we also need love, and I think love is the great expander and the great capacity builder.
True.
And a great unifier.
Right. It's true. Belonging. I sense one of my philosophies is planet Earth is about the human heart. We don't know of any other planet that actually has, there might be many planets with the human heart, but that we know of. And I think we come to experience family, connection, love. And ultimately that is what heals in some way, is belonging. I know a lot of the people I work with have shared, like, I've never actually felt so seen, and all I do is just hold space for them, to just share. So I think that that's really what amplifies.
Yeah. Listening.
The power of listening, the power of presence. I have two people in my life that really bring presence as the ultimate healing force in the planet. And I think it's something that we're slowly losing with the attention. Like we have so many things that take our attention. So it's often like not really felt the level of presence that we can have with each other and really hold space for each other. I think on the airplanes, for example, I used to love meeting people, and now everybody has their headphones and is plugged to their iPads. And it's like one of my favorite places to meet people is just like sitting next to someone. And nowadays is a bit more like everybody is. I also think like the planet is becoming overly sensory. Like one, we're becoming more sensitive, and also there's a lot of noise. And I think a lot of people often feel like it's better to tune out than to actually tune in, not only with themselves, but with each other as well. So really important presence. I think that's what you hold for me as well, is like that level of presence. As he's halfway around the world, and we have these like voice messages that we send back and forth, and it's just like you can feel you holding space, not just for what's happening, but also for the possibility of what can happen and what I can like become. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And on that, that's what you said, well, I was going to ask you, what is being love in the planet? But I feel like, what does be love in the planet? What does that, and what does that feel like for you? What it like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Showing up, doing my best, self-compassion and self-forgiveness is probably the most valuable DIY tools, I think, that anyone can have. Because when you, in addition to gratitude, because when I think you're able to get out of the loop of yourself and all the ways that you think that you're wrong or you're bad or you said something that wasn't right, or, the regret, or, when you get out of that type of loop, then you can actually just be. You can be with someone who's in front of you and get curious and listen and engage. And I feel like that's, the oxytocin definitely flows then.
I feel that right now for
Yeah.
us. Like, I feel like there's nothing other than this
Yeah.
conversation in this moment. I'm nowhere else.
Yeah.
That feels beautiful.
I feel that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you have self-compassion and self-love? How do you hold that for yourself?
I mean, it's practice. And, you know, it's something which I've had to learn because I used to be so hard on myself. And I think I still, you know, default towards that. It's like the old perfectionist, achiever kind of mentality. And yeah, just allowing myself to feel what I feel, name my emotions, breathe in and feel the physical sensations of self-compassion and self-forgiveness, forgive myself, remind myself that certain things aren't my fault. You know, I think it's a very, to use a word that you just used, like it's a sensorial process. You know, I don't think that you really can think yourself into self-compassion and self-forgiveness. I think you need to physically feel the sensations of that in your body for it to really land in your spirit.
Did I just ask a how question to you? I did just ask how. And you just
did I answer the wrong question?
No. I mean, weren't we just talking full circle? We just said the how is impossible. You brought us back to the body. Thank you. I just caught myself asking you a how question. Yeah, it is all in the body. That's so beautiful. It really is all felt in the body. Because I asked you a mind question, like how do you show yourself? And you brought us back to the body, which is so powerful.
Things move that much faster, I think. You know, and I love everything in life to be softer, lighter, easier, faster.
Yeah.
You know, I love the energy of that. I love the energy of ease and flow. And to your point, I think the body is the portal through which to experience that, but you have to feel it. You have to feel all of it.
Not let any piece of it hold in the body. I think that's, you know, dis-ease comes from not being able to fully allow yourself to feel it all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Oh, well, thank you, Ezzie. And anything else we have stored in there? Do you have any little sprinkles of inspiration? More inspiration?
Only that you are so fabulous. Wow. And I've so enjoyed this conversation.
You're so fabulous.
Anytime that I can get with you, anytime anyone can get with Manuela, this is your girl.
Excuse me. This is your girl. Your woman. Your powerful woman. Right. Ezzie. Thank you. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to have you and to hear so much about how you came to be, where you come from, what you're doing, and how you're expanding and supporting the consciousness and the planet one splinter at a time.
Thank you.
And such a joy, as I said, an honor to like have you in my life. And anyone watching, if you have the inkling to get to know this human being, I would highly suggest it. And thank you for being here with us. And thank you for sharing your magic and your full self and your authentic self, and for sharing ways that people can connect to that more and more.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.